Hi guys, hope you're all safe and doing well. So let's continue with the history test discussion. This will be the session 2. In session 1 I have discussed first 16 questions. So let's start. So we have the question with reference to Pondicherry, consider the following statements. The first European power to occupy Pondicherry were the French. The second European power to occupy Pondicherry were the Portuguese. The English never occupied Pondicherry. See here in my third statement, extreme words such as never has come. Whenever extreme words like never, only, once, always, better you give notice to such words and bubble them in the exam. When I tell bubble, just make note of that word and keep it. Because most of the times, 70 to 80% of the time, such statements tend to be wrong. Even here, if I just go with the assumption that third statement is wrong, and I remove the statement from the option where all it's there, I will end up with the right answer in this particular question. Okay. Either way, according to history also, if you go, English never occupied Pondicherry. So we know when you tell Pondicherry, it was the French who were involved. If you tell Goa, it is the Portuguese that was involved. This is the basic we know. So between French and English, we know Carnatic Wars occurred, 3 Carnatic Wars. In the second Carnatic War, if you have noticed, English East India Company would have captured Pondicherry for a brief period of time. In the treaty of the war, when the war ends, one of the clauses will be that East India Company gives back the territory of Pondicherry to the French. Okay, so even through that, the third statements become wrong. The first European power to occupy Pondicherry were the French, yes. Second to occupy Pondicherry were Portuguese. Now, Portuguese main focus was on Goa. Okay, so let's just see. In 1674, the governor of French East India Company, Francois Martin, set up a trading center at Pondicherry, and it eventually became the chief French settlement in India. Wars were waged among the European companies for their share of trade with India. Consequently, Pondicherry was captured by the Dutch in 1693 but was returned to French company by the Treaty of Ryswick in 1699. During the period from 1720 to 1738, the French company acquired Mahe, Yanam and Karaikal. All these are territories which come under Pondicherry itself, but they are not in the same state or in the same place. Please remember which is in which state. So, Pondicherry and Karaikal come under state of Tamil Nadu. Mahe will come under state of Kerala. Yanam will come under Andhra Pradesh. They might give it as a match the following question as well. Okay. In the period of Anglo-French War from 1742 to 1763, Pondicherry changed hands, and in 1761, British East India Company captured Pondicherry from the French and restored French company administration by Treaty of Paris in 1763. That is your second Carnatic War. Clear? So let's move. 18th question. Which of the following pairs are correctly matched? So this is a factual based question. If you know, you know, or else it's better you do not risk yourself answering such questions. Because we need not answer all 100 questions in the exam, right? We are just trying to reach the cutoff. So plus or minus 10 marks from the cutoff, we need to be there. Obviously, plus 10 marks from the cutoff is always to be on a safer side. So we need not get 200 marks. There can be some questions which you can let go. This is the type of question which you should not guess or take a risk in answering as per me. Because it's a numerological or chronological based question. If you know it, you can easily answer. Otherwise, you don't know. So on one side, they've given the periods when the war was fought. On the other side, they've given the names of the war. The two, they have specifically given first, second, third in such manner. So the correct answer for that is option D, 2 and 3. We'll just go through the wars so that you have an idea. There have been 3 Burmese wars or Anglo-Burmese wars. First Anglo-Burmese War, 1824 to 1826. Second Anglo-Burmese War, 1852 to 1853. Third Anglo-Burmese War, 1885. For our convenience, let's just remember Anglo-Burmese War occurred in between 1820 to 1885. That much we can have an idea, right? These were wars that was fought in the 19th century. That is in the 1800 period. Clear? So Burma means Myanmar, present day Myanmar. So the Anglo-Burma wars were fought during the 1800 period. That much you remember. Next we have Anglo-Maratha wars. The first one, 1775 to 82. It began with the Treaty of Surat. It ended with the Treaty of Salbai. The Governor General was Warren Hastings. One of the many battles are fought. See, when you tell a war was fought for say 8 years, 7 years, in between many important battles will be fought. Only few are required for the exam point of view. Okay, one of the important battle was Battle of Vadgaon. In the Second Anglo-Maratha War, 1803 to 1805, it began with the Treaty of Bassein. Governor General was Lord Wellesley. Battle of Assaye was famous. Third Anglo-Maratha War, 1816 to 1819. Treaty of Gwalior. Hastings was the Governor General. Battle of Pendari. Important because Peshwa rule ended. Okay. So how to at least remember few wars, if you want to know, is see which all wars are fought during the same time frame. Okay. So maybe if I take the third Anglo-Maratha War, it's 1816 to 1819. And my Burma War, if I take, so when third Anglo-Maratha War ended, after that ended only, British went to war with Burma. Can say like that. Okay. Next we have the Anglo-Mysore War. First one was in 1766 to 69. We all know that Hyder Ali went and attacked the English East India Company. And the outcome was that they had a friendship treaty signed between them, telling if anyone else attacked either of them, they are going to help each other. But that became the main cause of Second Mysore War. That is, when Hyder Ali was attacked, the English did not support him. This angered Hyder Ali, and again he went and had a battle with the East India Company. He died in the midst of the war. In the middle he passed away during the war. So the war was continued by his son Tippu Sultan. It ended with the Treaty of Mangalore. Third Anglo-Mysore War, 1790 to 92. Treaty of Srirangapatnam under Governor General Cornwallis. Tippu was defeated. Very important war, very important treaty. We know how badly Tippu was humiliated. And the fourth war was 1799 under Governor General Wellesley. Battle of Srirangapatnam, where Tippu died. So next we have Anglo-Sikh War. The first one was 1845 to 46. Treaty of Lahore, important, under Governor General Hardinge. Second Anglo-Sikh War, 1848 to 49, under Dalhousie. Sikhs finally accepted the rule of East India Company. So next question. What is the correct sequence of the following events? Lucknow Pact, introduction of Dayaki, Rowlatt Act, and partition of Bengal. So again, it's a chronological based question. We all know from the first video, from the first session, that introduction of Dayaki was from the Government of India Act 1919. So that is very clear. Partition of Bengal was something that occurred very early on in the national struggle for independence. Right after the Congress was formed, when the extremists came on board, that was one of the beginning agenda, that is response to partition of Bengal in the name of Swadeshi movement. Lucknow Pact, we might not be that aware. So Lucknow Pact was an arrangement reached between the INC and Muslim League at a joint session. Both parties held in Lucknow. So the meeting was held at Lucknow in December 1916. Through the pact, the two parties agreed to allow representation to religious minorities in the provincial legislature. That is your communal award or separate electorate. Okay. The Muslim League leaders in turn agreed to join the Congress movement demanding Indian autonomy. So that was the discussion held. They told, if you let us have our own separate electorate, then we will support you in the national movement of getting autonomy, that is Swaraj. Okay. Then Rowlatt Act, we know after Rowlatt Act, during that time only Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened. So again the year is 1919. So that might be a confusion because diarchy introduction again 1919, Rowlatt Act also 1919. It's also called as Anarchical and Revolutionary Crimes Act of 1919, popularly known as Black Act or Rowlatt Act. It was passed by the Imperial Legislative Council in Delhi on 18th March 1919, indefinitely extending the emergency measures of preventive indefinite detention, incarceration without trial and judicial review enacted in the Defence of India Act 1915 during World War. So, if the option here, we know for sure that partition of Bengal happened in 1905. Okay, so that I'll place first. If that will come first, I'll be left with option B and option D because both start with 4. Then I know it will be 1916, that is Lucknow Pact. So straight away I'll get the right answer, that is B. Right. So 4. Then I have 1916 Lucknow Pact. Now the confusion is will it be 4132 or 4123? For our luck, this option is not at all given. So directly I can tell B is the right answer. But if he wanted to make it difficult, he would obviously put in both the options. Then it would be a risk to choose which is right. For your information, Government of India Act 1919 was passed in December. Okay, so it was passed in December, whereas Rowlatt Act was passed in March of the same year. That's why Rowlatt Act comes first, then 1919 Act of Diarchy comes second. So let's go ahead. Regarding Wood's dispatch, which of the following statements are correct? Grants and aid system was introduced. Establishment of universities was recommended. English as a medium of instruction at all levels of education was recommended. All, again, an extreme word. Right? I told you if extreme words come, let's just bubble it up. So, all is an extreme word. If I just remove the third statement, considering it's wrong, will I get it in? Yes, I'll come to the right option. Yes or no? So in general, you cannot ask a country who is not having its native language as English to start getting education at all levels in English. Okay, it does not make sense. Logically also you need to think. Clear? So what was it about? Wood's dispatch. It laid stress on female and vocational education and on teachers' training. The dispatch for the first time clearly accepted the responsibility of education in India lies on the British government. Grant in aid to encourage private enterprise. The dispatch recommended the establishment of universities in presidency towns of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras, and if necessary at other places. English was made the medium of instruction for higher studies, whereas vernacular language, that is native language, was to be promoted at primary level. Next question. Which of the following led to the introduction of English education in India? So Charter Act of 1813, General Committee of Public Instruction 1823, Orientalist and Anglicist controversy. So all of us know in Charter Act of 1813, 1 lakh rupees was set aside for the purpose of education. So obviously 1 will be there in the right answer. What happened right after the Charter Act was enacted? That 1 lakh rupees was not sufficiently used. So overcome that issue, they again proposed 10 lakh rupee sum for the purpose of education. This was given in the General Committee of Public Instruction 1823 Act. So even that is dedicated to education. Orientalist and Anglicist controversy. So that is something that was conducted during the period of William Bentinck in 1833. So initially when British entered India, they tried to convert everything into vernacular language. Okay, they wanted to promote the native language. So we saw William Jones and Asiatic Society of Bengal. It was started by him, right? And Calcutta Madrasas were set up by Warren Hastings to study Muslim law. There was a Sanskrit college at Varanasi, which was started by a British person called Jonathan Duncan, who wanted to study Hindu law. So initially we see this trend. Later what happened? They thought this is not working out. Let us make education in terms of English so that it's easier for us as well. So this was the controversy about. So there was a group of people who supported native language learning. There was a group of people who wanted English to be the medium of instruction. Orientalist is native language, Anglicist is English medium. Okay, so this was spearheaded by Macaulay. We all know about the Macaulay Minute, which spoke about the education system in India. So all the three are talking about English education in India. Right answer is D. Who among the following was associated with the introduction of Rayatwari settlement in India during the British rule? So we all know land settlement system under British, three major things. Permanent settlement or zamindari, which was by Cornwallis and John Shore. So permanent settlement, you should know it is Cornwallis. Okay. Rayatwari system, it was Governor General Hastings and Thomas Munro. Mahalwari system, William Bentinck and R.M. Bird. Please remember these 6 people name. So here they are asking about Rayatwari settlement. Lord Cornwallis is not related to Rayatwari, but instead Zamindari. So if I remove option A, that is Lord Cornwallis, A goes, B goes, D also goes. So I'll be left out with the right answer called C. 2 and 3 only. By the English East India Company from Bengal in the middle of 18th century where? Okay, they are trying to ask what are all were traded by the English East India Company. That word has not been typed. So they traded mostly in cotton, silk, saltpeter and opium. We all know they came for the purpose of cotton. Saltpeter is an ingredient that is used in gunpowder manufacturing. Opium, you know, is a narcotic drug. Okay, these were the 4 important goods that were exported. Who among the following Europeans were the last to come to pre-independence India as traders? So, this is again a frequently asked questions, especially in the state level exams. Remember the sequence. First it was the Portuguese, then English, then Dutch, Danish. After Danish, it was the French. So, French were the last. In the year 1613, where was the English East India Company given permission to set up a factory? Okay. So, the right answer is Surat. English East India Company was also known as John Company informally. It mainly traded in cotton, indigo, dye, silk, salt, saltpeter, opium and tea. Saltpeter was an ingredient in gunpowder. The English established their first factory at Surat in 1613. Subsequently, Sir Thomas Roe secured permission from Jahangir to establish factories at Agra, Ahmedabad and Broach. Bombay came under the control of company with Charles II, who received it as a part of Portuguese dowry, leasing it out to the English company. Next question. Which of the following is the correct statement? The modern Kochi was a Dutch colony till India's independence. The Dutch defeated the Portuguese and built Fort Williams in modern Kochi. The modern Kochi was first a Dutch colony before the Portuguese took over from them. Modern Kochi never became a part of the British colony. Here they are asking for the correct statement. Kochi we know is in Kerala. So when you tell Kerala, obviously Vasco da Gama, Portuguese, they are the people that come to our head. Dutch we have never seen with reference to them. So modern Kochi was a Dutch colony till India's independence? No. So wrong statement. Dutch defeated Portuguese and built Fort Williams in the modern Kochi. We all know Fort Williams is in Calcutta, not in Kerala. So second statement is wrong. Modern Kochi was first a Dutch colony before Portuguese took over them? No. Cochin was actually the early Portuguese capital in India. Later on only Portuguese went ahead to Goa. So the right option is D, that British never colonized modern Kochi. In India, the following locations Dutch established their earliest settlement. So there's a difference between settlement and factory. So if you Google it, for factory, the first factory of Dutch, it comes as Masulipatam. Whereas the first settlement, it will come as Pulicat. Okay. The first settlement is at Pulicat. So here we have few of the trade settlements or factories. Portuguese, Calicut, Cochin, Goa. Dutch, you have Pulicat, Masulipatam, Surat, Nagapattinam. English, you have Masulipatam, Surat, Bombay. The Danish or Danes, Tranquebar and Serampore. French, Surat and Masulipatam. Hooghly was used as a base for piracy in Bay of Bengal by... So piracy activities were led by Portuguese. So what happened? They were the first to enter India for trade purpose, but they very quickly lost their foothold in the country. One thing is they captured Brazil, so they started focusing all their company men in Brazil. Other thing is they involved in piracy in the Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean. Okay, whatever ships were passing with the trade materials and goods, they used to ransack them. So Portuguese are known for their piracy. China and Myanmar signed an agreement to develop a multi-billion-dollar seaport at Kayapaku on the Bay of Bengal. China is also building or funding which of the following ports in India's neighborhood. So we all know in international relations, China has this concept of string of pearls. String of pearls means it's like a necklace which is consisting of pearls. So you have India, we have Sri Lanka, we have Bangladesh here, right? You have Pakistan here. So what is China trying to do? All around India, it's trying to be friendly with India's neighbors so that it can have a better hold on the country. Okay, better hold on India. That is why it is making huge number of funds. It is providing to all these countries for various projects. That is called a string of pearl theory. If you tie the necklace too tightly, anyone is going to choke. Okay, that is the concept between that. So the options are Gwadar in Pakistan, Hambantota in Sri Lanka, Chittagong in Bangladesh, all of the above. The right answer is all of the above. So last question. The Pacific Islands of New Caledonia voted on November 4, 2018 to remain part of France. An independence referendum that showed support for France, that is Paris, some 18,000 kilometers from the French mainland. New Caledonia is a home to quarter of the world's known supplies of. So this is a very, very typical UPSC question. Best example wherein you have a big para. In the first line itself, when you see November 4, 2018, we will get shocked thinking that I have not studied current affairs. How will I answer this? But if you see the actual question, is nothing related to current affairs, but it's a geography based question. Okay, mines and minerals. It's a mineral based question. So answer is nickel. It's a very, very small island that is in the Pacific Ocean next to Australia. So you have France somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, but here is a small island that is accepting the rule of France. I'll just show you. So yeah, if you see, this is Australia in the small square. Next to Australia, you can see that smallest, one more small square, that is New Caledonia. This is a blown up version of the island. It is in the South Pacific Ocean. Okay, thank you guys. We'll continue in the next session. We'll see the rest of the questions. Thank you.